Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am the Tome Scourer, and today we have a deck tech on Korvold, the Fey Cursed King. Now, this has been a pretty popular commander for quite some time now. A lot of different builds out there for it. But I wanted to do one maybe a little bit different than most builds. A lot of builds tend to be, the sort of aristocrat theme. But I wanted to go for a full-on treasure theme, all right? So I want to create a lot of treasures, sack them, and activate, or not really activate, but trigger Corvold's ability, where we put a +1/+1 counter on him and draw a card. So if we can start making a whole lot of treasures, sack a ton of them, we're going to be drawing cards, making tons of mana, and basically just having a good time. All right, so let's take a look at Corvold. It's 2 black, red, green, so 2 and a Jund, and it's got flying, and it's a 4/4. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, sacrifice another permanent. All right, so a great thing about this card is that it's not just sacking creatures or, very limited. It's any permanent on the battlefield. So tokens, lands, artifacts, enchantments, whatever it is that we need to sacrifice, we can do that. And we're going to put a +1/+1 counter on Corvold and draw a card. Now, if we're making a ton of treasures at a time and we start sacking those treasures and beefing Corvold up and drawing a lot of cards, we're going to be able to play a lot of stuff in our deck, and it seems like it'll be a lot of fun. All right, so let's take a look at our deck here. We'll go with the creatures first. And the whole reason why I built this deck is because of this card right here. When I saw this spoiled, I knew that this would be the perfect card for Corvold, and that I'd probably have to build him again. All right, so the old Gnawbone, it's 7 mana, it's flying and 7/7, and it says whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, create that many treasures. This can get pretty out of hand. We can make a lot of treasures with our big creatures that we have, pumping them up, swinging in for a lot of damage, making tons of treasures, sacking those treasures, drawing cards off of Corvold, and just playing more stuff. When you start sacking treasures, you're making tons of mana, and you're getting tons of card draw off Corvolds on the battlefield. So when I saw this is what I wanted to do. And then we have our other dragons in our package here that synergize perfectly with this, like Goldspan Dragon here. And it says it's 4/4, flying haste for 5. And whenever Goldspan Dragon attacks or becomes the target of a spell, create a treasure token. All right, so it's got haste, and as soon as we drop it, we're going to swing with it, and we're going to create a treasure token. And then it says treasures you control have tap, sacrifice, add 2 mana of any one color. So this is going to make all of our treasures tap for 2 mana instead of just 1. All right. So if we have these 3 things on the battlefield alone and we're swinging with them, we're going to be able to do a lot of nutty stuff. We're going to draw a lot of cards. We're going to play a lot of spells, and it's going to be a good time had by all. All right. That being said, with all the treasure tokens we're going to make, hopefully we'll have this as a win con, possibly. It says it's a Hellkite Tyrant, and it's 4 and 2 red. 6/5 flying trample, and it says whenever it deals combat damage to a player, gain control of all artifacts that player controls. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 20 or more artifacts, you win the game. All right, so an outright win con here. If we're making tons of treasures, it's pretty good idea that if we have this on the battlefield during our upkeep, we're probably going to win because we're going to have those treasures made. All right. Next, keeping with the dragon and treasure theme, we have Gadrak, the Crown Scourge. And it can't attack unless you have 4 or more artifacts, so we're not too worried about that. And at the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each non-token creature that died this turn. Alright, so if we're killing our opponent's stuff with our removal spells, or if we're sacrificing some of our creatures, we're going to be able to make some treasure tokens. And then, for 3 mana, it's a 5/4 flyer. We could get this out pretty quick and attack with it pretty quick as well. Alright, next we have Inferno of the Star Mounts. And I put this one in because it can't be countered. It has haste, so that goes well with old Gnawbone. But it also says if we pay a red, Inferno of the Star Mounts gets +1/+0 until end of turn. When its power becomes 20 this way, it deals 20 damage to any target. All right. So if we have a ton of treasure tokens and we sack them all for red, and we put all those +1/+0s on Inferno of the Star Mounts, we swing away with it, we attack somebody, we hit them, and then we deal 20 damage to them, the game is over, and that opponent is out of the game. We beat them. So I think we can pump this up really easily with all the treasures that we're going to make. All right. Next, we have a couple of things that create tokens for us to sack for Corvold. So we have Belladros Witherbloom here, and at the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 black green pest creature token. When this creature dies, you gain 1 life. All right. So when we sack it, we're in Corvold's on the battlefield. Say we got a 1/1 black pest. We're going to gain 1 life. We're going to add we're going to draw a card, and we're going to add a +1/+1 counter to Korvold. All right, all for just sacking one of the pest tokens. So that's pretty nice to have that in here. Okay, then we have Nesting Dragon. And again, this makes some more tokens for Corvold. Makes 0/2 dragon eggs. We can sack those eggs, and then we make 2/2 red dragon creature tokens with flying. Those can be sacked by Corvold as well. So lots of synergy with Nesting Dragon in this deck, and it kind of fits the theme of our dragons that we got going on here. Next, we have Karthus, Tyrant of Jund. It's got flying and haste, and when it comes into play, gain control of all dragons, then untap all dragons. Other dragons creatures you control have haste. So this is nice to give our dragons haste. Maybe if somebody's doing some stealing stuff and they have some of our dragons, we can get them back. If other people are playing dragons, we can take theirs. I know a couple people at my LGS are playing Tiamat now, so this is a card that will do pretty well, I think, in this deck. And then finally, our last dragon, we have Terror of the Peaks, because it's just on point for flavor. And whenever, we got these big dragon spells, so whenever a creature enters the battlefield, even if it's like tokens that we're creating, or if it's other dragons or other ones that are creatures, deals damage to any target equal to its power. All right, so let's look at some more of our treasure synergies here. We have Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token and exile the top card of that player's library. Until end of turn, you may cast that card. So this is kind of nice that we could be able to cast some of our opponent's spells. All right. And then we have Dockside Extortionist, which needs no introduction. It's just a busted card in Commander, especially if you're playing at a competitive table and you drop this down and there's a bunch of artifacts on the battlefield. We're going to create a bunch of treasure tokens with this. Now, the nice thing about this too is that it synergizes and combos often with Temur Sabertooth, depending on how many artifacts and enchantments our opponents control. We could bounce this to our hand, cast it again, make treasure tokens, keep doing it over and over again. As long as we have, I think if our opponents have 5 artifacts or enchantments, and we pay 2 to bounce this back to our hand, and then we pay 2 again, cast Dockside, we create 5 treasure tokens, we do it all over again, we net 1 treasure. So we make infinite mana using these 2 cards, which is really cool. All right, more treasure shenanigans going on. We have a Kalane, Recluse Painter. So when it enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. Then we get to put +1/+1 counters on creatures that enter the battlefield after being paid with treasures. All right, another great card for this deck is Magda, Brazen Outlaw. We don't really care that other dwarves get +1/+0. This is the only dwarf that we have in here. So whenever a dwarf you control becomes tapped, create a treasure token. Hopefully we can tap this and make some. But the most important thing down here is sacrifice 5 treasures, search your library for an artifact or a dragon card, put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. That's the ability that we care about the most, because if we have a ton of treasures, it's basically a tutor and puts stuff right onto the battlefield for us, which would be really nice to have. Okay. Next we have Pitiless Plunderer, another treasure token creator. Whenever you control a creature you control dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token. So even if it's our token like eggs or dragons or pests that we're sacrificing to Corvold, if they die, we get a treasure token. So that's synergizes really nicely with that. Okay. Next, we have a new commander card here. We have Prosper Tomebound, and it says, at the beginning of your end step, exile the top card of your library. Until end of your next turn, you may play that card. Whenever you play a card from exile, create a treasure token. All right, so this is nice. Kind of gives us a little extra card draw. We're exiling cards, and we're able to play them again until our next turn. And then if we do cast those cards that are exiled, we get a treasure token. And the nice thing about this too, it says you may play that card. So if it is a land, you do get a land out there. You can play that land from exile, which is really nice. And you get a treasure token. Pretty sweet. Okay, next we have Academy Manufacturer, which synergizes really well with all the tokens that we're making, because it says if you create a clue, food, or treasure, instead create 1 of each. So if we're like swinging away with Old Gnawbone, we're making 7 treasures, we're also going to make 7 clues and 7 foods. Pretty good. Okay. Next one is Imperial Recruiter to tutor up some creatures. We do have some with power 2 or less, so this will help us out to grab some of those. We have just a great card in this deck, another new one from Modern Horizons. This card, I think it goes better in Corvold than it would be as a commander by itself, honestly. I mean, whenever we're making tokens, we're also going to make green squirrel tokens. So if we're making like 10 treasure tokens at a time, we're going to make 10 squirrels too. We have sack outlets to get rid of those squirrels, or we can just use the black down here, pay 1 black, sacrifice any number of squirrels we want. Creature get plus X, minus X until end of turn, and then, you know, we're drawing tons of cards with Korvold. Just super crazy good synergy in this deck. Awesome in the 99. If you built him as a commander, I highly recommend putting him in Corvold instead. I think he'll do you a lot more justice there. All right, next we have Eternal Witness, so we can return some stuff from our graveyard to our hand. Then we have Marionette Master. Never played with this card before, but it's pretty cool. It has Fabricate, so it can enter the battlefield with 3+1/+1 counters, or you can create 3/1/1 servos. But here it says, whenever an artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to Marionette Master's power. So we're probably going to have this come in with +1/+1 counters on it, so that it becomes a 4/5. And then when we start sacrificing those treasures, we're going to start dealing 4 damage for every artifact treasure that we sacrifice, 4 damage to an opponent. Okay, great card, great synergy, really awesome in this deck. Next we have Mazarek Kral Death Priest, and it says it's a flying 2/2, so this is nice. That's something we would tutor up with Imperial Recruiter for sure. Whenever a player sacrifices another permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So if we're sacking tons of treasures, even if we have like a ton of tokens out, if we have a bunch of pests that we haven't sacked yet, and then we, you know, sack a bunch of treasures, we're going to put +1/+1 counters on all of those pests and make them pretty big. Another great card for this deck. Okay, next up, we got a couple of nice synergy cards here to ramp us up. We got Sakura Tribe Elder, so we sack it, search our land for a basic, or search our library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield. All right, so even if Corvold's not out yet, it helps us to ramp a little bit. And if Corvold's out, we get the sack trigger, and we get to draw a card, and we get a +1/+1 counter, and we get a land. Just so good. Spring Bloom Druid, same thing. We're going to sacrifice a land. Then we're going to sacrifice, we're going to search our library for 2 lands. And then we're going to eventually probably sacrifice this too, because we don't really need it for anything else. So we're going to sack that too. So it's like kind of a 2-for-1. We get to sack this and a land for Corvold to draw us 2 cards and get +1/+1 counters. Another awesome new card here from Modern Horizons. We have Tireless Provisioner, and it's landfall. I love that it's landfall. Whenever a land enters a battlefield under control, create a food or a treasure. 9 times out of 10, we're going to make treasures, but it's possible that we could do foods as well. All right, awesome card there. Then we have a sack outlet here. We have Viscera Seer, so we can sacrifice a creature and scry 1. And then we have Zorn. Now this card I'm not too sure about. I don't know if I'm going to keep it in here or not, but it just synergizes well with the deck, gets us extra treasures an extra treasure whenever we sack 1 or more. All right, let's get into our instance. We have Crop Rotation, so we can sack a land and go find one of our non-basics that we need to get out. We have Vampiric Tutor, so we can search for a card, pay 2 life, put that card on top of our library. Assassin's Trophy, force and removal. It's nice because it destroys any permanent. Yeah, your opponent gets to go search for a basic and put it on the battlefield, but if they got a really pesky permanent that we need to get rid of, this is a good one. All right. Then we have Terminate, destroy target creature, can't be regenerated. We have Bedevil, which I kind of like because it gives us a little extra stuff going on there. It gives us the ability to destroy an artifact or a planeswalker or a creature, so having that option is always nice to have in Commander. Then we have Colligan's Command, and I like these command cards because it gives you some options. I think the ones that we would choose on this the most would probably be your return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, or destroy target artifact. The other 2 are okay. Target player discards a card or deals 2 damage to target creature or player. I mean, I guess if we want to get rid of like a Hate Bear or something like that, that's good to have. But most likely it's going to be returning stuff from our graveyard to our hand and destroying an artifact more than likely. All right. Next, we have Heroic Intervention to protect our stuff. Somebody does a board wipe. Maybe if we got some mana open, if we got some treasures, easy to cast this and save all of our stuff. And we got some ramp here. We got Farseek, which is nice because we can search for a swamp or a mountain with this. So we can get our shocklands with that as well, which is nice. We got Nature's Lore, so we can search for a forest, which again includes our shocklands, not just basics. Same thing with 3 visits. A little redundancy here. Does the same thing. Cultivate grabs us a basic for our hand and 1 on the battlefield tapped. And then I like Hour of Promise because this card allows you to search for any 2 lands, and we do have some good lands in here that we'll probably be using if we're able to cast this to get the ones we need, so that we can pump up our mana quite a bit. I'm sure you can guess what those lands are. All right, and then for our next tutor we have Demonic Tutor, so we can search for a card and put it into our hand. We have Natural Order, which synergizes great with Korvold because we can sacrifice a green creature, then search our library for a green creature and put it on the battlefield. Hello, old Gnawbone. Nice to see you. I'm glad I sacrificed that pest to get you. All right. Another tutor here. We have Finale of Devastation. Obviously, this will be a game ender if we have tons of treasures and we're sacking them and we're paying over 10 for the X. It's probably going to happen more often than not. So Finale of Devastation is a great finisher here. Next, we have Vandal Blast in case somebody's playing a ton of artifacts and we just need to wipe the board real fast. That's just our opponent's artifacts too, so that's nice. So ours all stay on the battlefield. We get to keep our treasures. Next, we have Hull Breach. This is good because it can destroy an enchantment or an artifact, or it can do both. So we got to have at least one enchantment removal in case we need to deal with some enchantments in our deck, or that our opponents are playing, I should say. All right. Next, we have Brass's Bounty, which is so much fun. You get to create for 7 mana. You get to create a treasure artifact a treasure token for every land you control. So let's say we have 5 lands. We cast this for 7. We get 5 treasures, so we get 5 of that mana back. And if Corvold's on the field, we get to draw 5 cards, put 5+1/+1 counters on them, and then we get to use those treasures probably to cast something else. All right, so then we're gonna we use the mana from the treasures for something else. So really sweet if you get this, if you can play this while Corvold's on the field. It's just nothing but value, value, value. All right, here's our board wipes. We got Blasphemous Act. We have Crux of Fate, where we'll probably destroy all non-dragon creatures, depending on what's going on. If we got a bunch of dragons out, we want to be able to keep them. And then we have Damnation for our last board wipe there. 3 board wipes in this deck, okay? We have 2 enchantments. We have Doubling Season, and we have Revel in Riches, all right? So Doubling Season, it's gonna, when we're making treasure tokens, we're gonna create twice as many that we would. This and Old Gnawbone is just sick, all right? And then we have Revel in Riches, which is sort of our alt win con, but it can also get us treasures too. So whenever a creature an opponent control dies, create a colorless treasure token. And then, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more treasures, you win the game. Awesome. Alternate win con right there. All right, now let's take a look at our artifacts here. We have our ramp package, first of all. So we have Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Felwar Stone, which I just love. I love this card. It goes in just about any 3-color deck, 4-color deck, and play a Felwar Stone. Talisman of Resilience, Talisman of Impulse, Thought Vessel, because we will be drawing a lot of cards. We want to make sure that we're not discarding it all, so Thought Vessel will be an important one. Swiftfoot Boots, Lightning Greaves, Ashnod's Altars for a sack outlet, and Tamio's Journal, which this card's pretty cool. Not sure how many clues we're going to be making. I mean, we get to make one at the beginning of each upkeep. And then if we sacrifice 3, we get to search our library for a card and put it into our hand. So it's a nice little artifact tutor here. If we have Academy Manufacturer out, we can definitely make tons of clue tokens and then be able to use this ability. So it's a pretty neat card there. All right, so that's pretty much the deck right there. Let's look at our mana base really quick. I think my mana bases for most 3-color decks is kind of like the same. I use like the same type of cards, right? So I have the 3 fetches here. Let's take these off the top. They got kind of mixed up for a little bit. All right, so we have Bloodstained Mire, Verdant Catacombs, and Wooded Foothills. So the 3 fetches to go with our 3 colors. We put those in there. Probably could put some other fetches in there. I probably might think about putting other fetch lands just because it synergizes so well, but I don't want to use like the really slow fetch lands. I want this deck to be fast and we want to ramp quickly. So using like kind of the slow fetch lands, while, you know, it'll help you to get more lands out, it's a little bit slower. All right. Next we have our shock lands here. We have Stomping Ground, Overgrown Tomb, and Blood Crypt. So our 3 shocks. Then we have our 3 check lands. These are okay, you know, they're not the greatest, but, you know, if we have enough of our shocks or some of our basics out, most of the time these will come in untapped. If it's early game, turn 1 or turn 2, you know, we don't have a lot. I think we have like 2 1-mana creatures in here, or 1-mana spells, so, you know, you get these in your opening hand, it's not too bad. So, not great, but, you know, not too bad either. All right, next we have our pathways. So we have Blightstep Pathway, Crag Crown, and Darkboar. I do like these cards. Some people don't like them in Commander. I do. It gives you the option of like the color that you need right away, and it's good just to, you know, more mana fixing that comes in untapped, the better. All right. Then we have our let's see if I can find it. I think I just have, yeah, just these two. So we only have 2 of the Pain Lands, Llanowar Waste and Karplusan Forest. Is that how you say it? Yeah, Karplusan. All right, sure. So nice early game. You know, you might have to lose a life to get the colors that you need, but you know, later on, you know, you can just tap it for colorless and it'll be fine. Next, we do have the 3 filter lands, so that's nice in case we have anything that we need to fix our mana for. If we need to get like double red or double green or anything like that, nice for mana fixing. All right. And then we finally have the 2 Battle Bond lands, Luxury Suite and Undergrowth Stadium. All right, so kind of like basically duels for multiplayer games kind of thing going on. All right, so those are all our multicolored lands. Then for our utility lands, we have Command Tower, Exotic Orchard, Fabled Passage, Field of the Dead, which I think is awesome. We have so many different lands on here. If we can get this out, we're probably going to be able to start making 2/2 zombies, which are nice for blockers, and they're nice for sacrificing too. Then we have Phyrexian Tower, which is a sack outlet to add mana. We have Cobble Coffers and Tomb of Urborg together, and we also have Yavimaya Cradle of Growth, because why not? Make all of our lands dual, you know, bayous. I guess. Is that bayou? Is that what they? Is that what they? Or is that the black and blue one? I don't know. I've never owned a dual land in my life, so I'm not sure what they're called. But anyways, if we have all of these out, it makes our all of our lands tap for both black and green, which is kind of nice. And Cobble Coffers is always good because we can just create tons of mana. So again, we have like Hour of is it Hour of Promise or no, what's it called? Hour of Promise, the one that searches for the lands. Yeah, we'll probably be getting these 2. That's probably what we're gonna get. Urborg and Cobble. Yep, good stuff. All right, since we're drawing tons of cards, we have Reliquary Tower, Treasure Vault, because yeah, we're gonna try and make some more treasure tokens. And then we have let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 forests, 3 mountains, and 3 swamps. All right, so those are all the lands, and that is the deck. All right, so again, just kind of a fun deck here. Like I said, I think that these 3 cards are where the money's at and how we just make Korvold absolutely busted. If we can ramp up quickly, get these guys out together somehow by tutoring for them or, you know, whatever it is, just somehow get these out together. If we're lucky, it's just game on. You're gonna win the game. It'll be pretty hard not to. All right. You know, we can withstand board wipes if we make enough treasure tokens. We're going to be able to just recast stuff right away from our hand. We're going to be able to draw more cards and cast more things. Draw cards to find our stuff that returns stuff from our graveyard to the battle or to our hand. Just lots of stuff that we can do. Drawing cards, playing big creatures, flying dragons, just tons of fun. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you liked this video. I hope it gives you a good idea of something you may want to do with Korvold in the future. Old Gnawbone is completely busted. Try and find a place to put it in a deck. It's so good. It's so good. And if you like this video, if you could take the time to go down there, gently tap the like button. Don't smash it. Smashing things is just awkward. And hit the subscribe button. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.